Last month was a whirlwind for Disney fans as the long-awaited D23 2024 Expo finally arrived, bringing a wave of exciting announcements, along with a bit of controversy. Get ready as we dive into all of the buzz from Disney's biggest fan event.
Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here I
go! Welcome to the September episode of the Great British Mickey Waffle. We're back after an incredibly busy August, when most of our team was lucky enough to spend some time in the most magical place on Earth. So while all that was going on, there was excitement on the other coast, and D23 Expo 2024 unfolded. The announcements were long overdue, and were we all left wanting more? So joining me today, we have Becca.
Hello.
And Claire, who's just come back from Florida. How is the jet lag?
I'm okay. Do you know
You're
what?
okay.
I think I've been so frequently in the last 18 months, I'm getting used to it. I'm okay.
And how long is the countdown to your next trip? Because I know it's not long.
It is, crumbs. At the time of recording, which is a few days before the beginning of September, 50 days.
50?
Yeah, 50.
Wow.
So it's not very long.
So next month you'll be back in Florida.
I will. And I'm going to be exploring a bit more of Florida. So flying to Miami and then driving down to Key West and then spending a couple of days on Vero Beach and then up to Orlando. So yeah, bit further afield, which I'm looking forward to.
I'm so glad that we are now in September because we're going to be going this month.
Yeah, you get to go. And Robert and Simon are just about to go to California and Hawaii. John's been and has come back.
Yeah.
We're all having a trip. It's great.
I know, this is brilliant. And also, if you haven't noticed about everyone on screen, we're also not doing today's show alone. So joining us for this very special episode are the three fantastic friends of the show. Jason Knapp from Here with the Magic.
Hello, my friends.
Carlos Silva from All the Pontos.
Hello.
And Colin Kendall from Guide 4 WDW.
Hello.
How are we all today?
You said Jason was a friend, though. I mean, come on.
I know. He's pushing the limits of this one.
Yes, a little bit, yeah.
The collective group, the group name for the three guests is After Hours.
Yes.
After hours,
if you want to be kind. Yes.
Yes, After Hours, Let's Talk Disney.
D23 was one of those events, especially this year. I think over the past few years, we've had a lot of events where there's been a lot of blue sky thinking, blue sky ideas, not knowing what Disney's doing. I'm not sure whether Disney themselves knew what they were doing, but it will finally, I think this year felt like it was a very different expo.
Yes, and was not only in terms of what was presented during the panels, but mainly in the floor, mainly in the expo. The whole thing was much more tangible. You could so tangible that you could talk with the Imagineers, that you could discuss with Disney in several things. So I think that the best thing about D23-24 was that they tried this proximity, and that was, for me, that was the best point of it.
I heard good things in that regard as well. When I've been to two D23s, the first was in 2015, and then the second was in Carlos 2022.
2022, yes.
Yeah. And there was a definite drop off in the quality of the floor exhibits since there, and I think that a lot had to do with being post COVID. As you would recall, 2021 was when it was supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. It was delayed because of the pandemic. And I think what happened during those years between is that they lost a lot of talent who had previously put this stuff together, and a lot of the know-how went. And I think they've had to rebuild that. And so what it sounds like is that they've gotten their act back together again. And I think to Carlos's point, that was the most impressive thing that I saw from afar was that there was this sense of, as Carlos put it, proximity, that they were much more accessible to the people making the magic. And in the past, that I don't think that was as true, at least not from my experience. But I think it's definitely a different guard running thing now. I mean, it feels that way through the presentation.
And we need to remember that, as Jason mentioned, the drop from the previous one that he went to 2022, that COVID happened and Chapek happened too. So that there was a period with Chapek and the whole thing post COVID. I think it is kind of unfair to judge and to evaluate that edition of D23. But one thing we can tell is that several things Disney heard after that D23, they tried to correct for this one. Okay. But and I'll tell you, the experience itself was much more celebratory than the other D23s than I went. So the first one I went was in 2019, and then I went with Jason in 2022. And this one, you could feel a little bit more, a big dosage on the celebration of the event, because we have to remember that the D23, most of all, is to be a congregation of Disney fans. They take that space and they take that opportunity to announce things, but the announcements are not supposed to be the main thing of the event. So this year they got it really right in terms of because it was even easier for us as attendants to walk around to enjoy things. It was a bigger space. The whole idea of separating and getting the big panels in a different venue during the night, works really fine, because it started to take off the pressure of the attendance in the expo. So it was easier to circulate, and even in things like the stores. Now, they have several stores that you need to apply to a virtual queue to get in. The first day was kind of a messy day for to get in, but you started to notice by close to the middle of the afternoon, as people was leaving to the expo, to the Honda Center, it started to be easy, even if you didn't have the virtual queue to get into the stores. So it was
good stuff was gone.
No, and buddy, I'm not the one that goes for shopping like crazy, but I did it because I went to the store and everything was there, and oh my gosh, and I start to buy a lot of stuff. So it was different.
I was going to say, when he said that, he came back with a lot of stuff.
He came back with like pencils and notebooks.
No. There was that. I didn't show my lounge flies, but
That's the reason for you to put the trip.
I'm there.
But that's the point. And even that, and Jason pointed right, because in the other editions we used to have a problem with inventory of the stores. You could go the last day, close to the last hours, it could go to the stores. Everything was there, so they took care.
It seems like there was a lot less panic queuing and standing around as much this year as in past years, because every year you would hear, oh, I had to get up at such and such time to get to the door, to get to the line, to get to this particular item that they had announced several days in advance. It didn't seem like there was as much of that this year. Is that true, Carlos? With some of the virtual queuing?
It is true. It is true. For the stores, for sure. Stores, for sure.
So I remember that was a mess for years.
But for the panels, what happened is that you already got in that week during the show, for the expo. You already knew that you were not getting into several panels, because the whole thing is that you go, it's almost like a lottery. For the smaller panels, you apply, and they're gonna say, well, you got this one, you got that one, and then that's they're gonna just inform you that if you got it or not. For the big ones, you have to pay a ticket. It's not a cheap ticket. Is really expensive. But even for that, Jason was next to me. I was trying to buy that. Actually, we were in Lisbon.
Oh, you mean when you were trying to get the
trying to get the tickets, and I couldn't. I couldn't get all the tickets. I got I got to the Parks and Experience and to Disney Legends, but not for the movie ones. And
how
it's
many devices did you have going?
Knowing Carlos, 27.
remember what, buddy?
Oh,
I
I
was
remember.
with
Yeah, we were trying to eat
desktop with a laptop with a laptop with a iPad with 2 phones and
I feel sorry for the
pizza
hotel's
parlor.
Wi-Fi.
Sounds like you.
and we are in the middle of a pizza place in a
with my gin and
pizzeria.
tonic, with my gin and tonic that looked like a sangria. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That's more what Jason was worried about in that moment.
I needed it after his panicking over the ordering. So I mean, that part could be improved. I'm sure when it comes to
Yeah, for sure.
To
But you know one thing, buddy, I really don't know if how they could improve that, because the whole issue with the panels and it's not infrastructure.
no,
it
in terms
is
of purchasing the tickets, the waiting,
It's the capacity, isn't it, of how many people that are trying to apply at once? Because I know,
but buddy, that's the point. It's a lot of people trying to buy it at the same time.
I know, but you know what? As some friends of ours have pointed out, like Apple somehow manages it when they release a new phone, you don't sit there in a giant long queue waiting to be able to purchase your phone. You just get it. Ticketmaster, like there's a lot of places that have figured out how to just run the tech. I do actually believe it's a tech solution thing.
Oh, you mean you don't need to wait. You're gonna be whenever is the time that they're gonna open the sales ticket. You're gonna know if you're gonna get it or not. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be sticking you in this long. You shouldn't have to wait. Certainly, it shouldn't be. You're in this queue for an hour, which is what happens sometimes.
In my case, 12 hours.
Yeah, it doesn't. Make
12
sense.
hours?
Yes, I turn on. I turn.
That's like
in-
Claire's old internet.
Wow. It wasn't even
I'd have given up
a
after the
dining
first
plan.
2.
And and there was another thing, because in my end with my audience in Brazil, I was trying to we would try to promote a tour, a group to visit D23, and our main issue was that you're not able to buy tickets for groups. Disney is not interested. They're selling everything without a group, so
They don't care. Yeah.
They don't care. So what
they're
happened
going to sell out anyway. So it's
to
not
the
gonna-
Ponto a Ponto group is that only one of the attendants got it.
Oops.
Only one got it. Only one. Yeah. So we were traveling there with the only one person in the group.
For visiting D23, is it something that you would put as part of another trip to California? Because obviously coming from the UK, it's a long way to travel for a 3-day expo.
Oh, I'll definitely recommend it. If they repeat the formats that they and I think they're gonna just improve it from that. But I totally recommend, buddy. Yeah, it is, and combining that with the parks there, it is an amazing trip. Okay, it is an amazing trip. The way that we did in the past, the way that I did with Jason, is something that I would not repeat anymore, because what you no, sorry, buddy.
Don't go with Jason.
No, not with you. With you, I'll go anywhere.
It's too late. You said it. It's too late.
Out.
No. I said the way that we did the trip, because we did the following. We arrived 1 day or 2 days before the expo, so we had 1 day in the parks without expo at all. And the other days, we used to go to the expo during the morning and mid-afternoon, and then from there go to the parks. That is not healthy. It is totally nuts. So you're gonna be destroyed in the second day, okay, of the show. No, it is
For
too
those
much.
who have to go back and take naps, it is difficult. I know. Those who are built.
He's got to take 7 showers a day too. So.
For me, it was about it was different because there wasn't as much pressure to be in the space, because there just weren't as many experiences in 2022 as there were this past one, right? So I think you actually could spend more, you could dedicate more time in the convention itself, right? And I'm not one of those people who goes, it depends on who you are. I think you have to decide what kind of person you are. If you like the Comic-Con type thing, if you like to go to those type things, then and you're a Disney fan, this is absolutely something you should do, because you're going to love it. If you do the cosplay thing, you will love that part of it. If you're somebody like me whose kryptonite is queuing, then this may not be the best thing for you, because you're going to just go from thing to thing, passing it by because the queues are so long. And yes, while they did have virtual queues, what I was reading on threads was that people were frustrated because they were getting virtual queues to enter something, but then when they were called back, they were then standing in line for a long period of time with other people who had been called back at the same time. So similar.
That only happened in the mid first day and they corrected. But
again, I think what happens by correcting it, because there are these exclusive things that are sold in the stores, and they actually do sell out because they're limited edition. They're limited number of things that people are trying these collector to purchase. And sure, if you're not going for those things, then you don't want to. You can wait until whatever. But for me, I just have this. The idea of paying a lot of money because it's not cheap.
It's not cheap,
right? Mm-hmm. So you're paying a lot of money to go. And then you're having to, so you're paying to go and stand in line to pay again for something. And that's the part that just rubs me the wrong way a little bit. But that's me. And I'm not going to judge anybody who says, oh, no, I think it's totally worth the effort and the money because I go for it. I mean, if that's your scene, then I think you should do it. But for me, the time that I had in the park was great because the parks actually during the day tended to be a little less crowded.
Yeah. Well, this year, what we did is that we spent 4 days in the parks and then the 3 days of the expo.
So you went to the parks leading up to the expo.
What I would do in the future is reverse that. I would start with the expo, the 3 days of expo, and then enjoy the parks. Because it was actually. It was a little bit crowded and not crowded due to the D23, but it was crowded because a lot of the families from the area. I don't know why. It's probably the last week of the summer break could be something like that. But it was pretty crowded.
I mean, I think to Jason's point, the reason I have not gone in the past, one is cost, but also on top of that, I mean, I don't want to spend that kind of money and then wait in queues all day. So like for me, hearing the virtual queues is kind of intriguing if they can get that to a point where it works. Because historically, I mean, I don't want to stand in line for 3 hours like just to see an event. Like if I'm going to do that, I'll go to the parks. So that was kind of always been the thing for me. Having that opportunity to have that excess time to kind of wander the show floor and stuff like that is actually more intriguing to me than it has been in past.
But one thing we need to be fair is that the virtual queues and the queuing is much more related to the shopping part of it, which is not the whole of the experience. Actually, it is only part of that.
Right.
There is queuing for the exhibits too.
Yes, but the queuing for exhibits, the longest one that I took was the one for Marvel, and it took me like 25 minutes.
I'm out.
Yeah, so it's not like one of those deals where before you had to wait in line 3 or 4 hours for a chance to go. But Jason's already out at 25 minutes.
And it depends on who you're in line with too. If you bring a buddy that you can talk to, then there's that. If
me,
if you're stuck next to somebody else,
no, I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
And I think
talking about Loungeflies.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So if you want to be reminded that there are other people in the universe who love Disney as much, or maybe probably more than you do, this is also a good thing to do. If you're that person in your family who everybody thinks is a little strange because like you go to Disney by yourself.
They think that about me, but it's not because of Disney.
You go here and you are surrounded by people who are just as, if not more.
Much more.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool and that's kind of fun. These people, these are people who, they speak the same language, not necessarily from the same country, but the same Disney language. And that's a lot of fun.
Just for you to understand, there was this guy dressed that he spent the whole fair, the 3 days I run into him, dressed as a fast pass booth.
like an old school.
And you could like press the button and get the ticket.
I'm not gonna ask. Not gonna ask where the ticket came from.
What was printed on the ticket? Was it
fast pass for something? I don't know. I didn't try it.
It was in his pocket half the day, so it's a little damp, but
it's crazy.
That's a reason to go to D23.
But the other thing,
dedication.
Yeah. The other thing I have to bring up and mention is that the night panels, the ones that were in the Honda Center, they were first of all, the whole organization to get into the Honda Center from the Anaheim Convention Center and getting in and getting back was conducted by Disney cast members. They were outside the expo, and they were outside the Honda Center to help you to navigate the different buses and things like that, and was pristine. Was like everything was right. Okay, so and the moment you got into the Honda Center, also they paid attention to details like all the TVs of the Honda Center. Instead of playing the regular TV things in a venue like that, they were just showing Disney, just Disney shows in Disney Plus, things like that, and it was great. The production that we had. I will not talk about the first night, the movie nights, because I wasn't there. But the one for Parks and Experience presentation was already mind blowing because they had a full orchestra for the whole show there. And then the last night, Disney Legends, was almost like Oscar night, just in terms of production. So and that brought me a question, and we said, no, what is the economics behind that? What they're thinking about? Because for Parts and Experiences, for sure, there was no other audience than the one. Well, there were people streaming, but there was no official other audience than the one at the venue.
The cast members. There were cast members. I mean, cast members were official.
But even that, buddy, it was a really expensive production for something that was close.
Yeah.
The Disney Legend.
When you don't have a lot to share though, and you need to fluff it up, you really do. You really go to
it was
the
like
side.
I remember I was watching the stream on YouTube, and it was interesting. Every single announcement was followed by a song.
Mm-hmm.
Every single announcement was preceded by a song. It was like 12 songs per thing.
If they just did announcements, it'd be over in half an hour. Good, done. And I could go back to sleep.
But let me be frank, and if I compare to 2019 and 2022, there was a lot more this time than the other times.
Yeah, it was a much bigger production this time for sure in terms of the parks presentation. Like absolutely. In fact, I would say it was overwhelmingly production. It was a show more than it was a presentation of information, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably where some disconnect was. The expectation that had been set up since the inception of the D23 Expo had been this was presentation oriented. And there was always some song and dance number, but that wasn't the main thrust of it. This became the main thrust, was entertaining the audience. And by the way, we're gonna make some present information. And there's no right or wrong. I'm just saying from a reversal expectation, I think that's what I experienced in terms of watching it.
And by the point of being there, I would say that it was entertaining, and we had an amazing night. I would not complain about the night that we had there. It was mind blowing.
Yeah, and a lot of that's not going to transfer to a stream anyway. Not the way that you're excited about it. You have the environment of the people around you. You have you've been around them all day long. It's like the cavalcade of the evening. But like Jason said, it's kind of this juxtaposition of, it's kind of like what they used to do was like the travel agency presentation, where you get the information, you'd move on. Where now it's like, okay, there's this big spectacle. We're going to do this big thing because we sold tickets to it. It's going to be more like a concert than it is just us relaying facts, which is probably part of the reason they did it, because it was an expensive ticket.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that part, I think going forward now, people know this is what to expect. Yeah. And they're going to be spending the money on it. It's you just know going in. I do want to say the Disney Legends piece, if it is available on Disney Plus, which I watched, I guess it aired the night after the actual presentation.
Within 2 days,
And I watched that, and it's one of the best things I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Like, it was, in terms of that kind of show. The Carlos was right when he said it was sort of like an Oscar night kind of, but actually better because everyone was nice to each other.
Yes.
Right? Yes. No one got hit. No one got slapped in the face. Right?
Yes.
It was really nice. Like Miley Cyrus, who I have never been a fan of. She's always turned me off a little bit. Like, completely redeemed herself. Like,
she was sweet. She was touched, And
Everybody was amazing. Everybody was amazing.
Jamie Lee Curtis singing
National treasure.
singing the Carousel of Progress
Yeah.
song
Yes.
and
There's a great
asking
video as well.
everybody, the whole Honda Center
She
sing
knew
along with
all
her.
the words
It
to
was
every
amazing. Yeah.
verse of that
Yeah.
song.
It was amazing.
It was quite incredible. And that, so if you haven't watched, that is absolutely worth watching. The Frank Oz piece, make sure you have the tissues nearby, because
Yeah.
when he receives his the waterworks.
I'm not. Is it available on the UK one?
No, it's not available on the UK Disney.
Well, there's
Plus.
the Express. This show is brought to you by ExpressVPN.
VPN.
Um,
But funny enough, it is available on YouTube.
But
Oh.
okay.
But one thing, I think probably one of the best things of that night was a lady called Martha Blending. She's now retired, but she was a cast member from Disneyland, and she was actually a VIP guide in the past. And when she was called to the stage, actually a whole line of VIP guides, cast members were aligned in the stage along with Mickey and the Fab Five. And Disneyland marching band also waiting for her in the stage. It was amazing. It was the whole Honda Center was touched by that. So
Yeah.
they took really good care of the way that they catered. The whole night was special.
And Ryan Seacrest, who hosted, is another national treasure.
He is outstanding.
F-
Love
f-
Ryan
man,
Seacrest.
f-
Listen to
there's
the show
nothing
for
he
years.
can't do. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's-
it's
it's great.
Yeah, and you had Jodie Foster, Lindsay
Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan, Danny DeVito was there. and actually they cut a lot of the speech that he
Some of his
did.
jokes didn't make it to the national. I mean, to
No,
the
no,
televised
no,
version. Right.
no, the
They had to
televised-
leave a few things that didn't.
Yes,
Mm.
but it was great. It was great, and it was great to see how they added out the night. How's the night was? It was amazing, but they added a lot of stuff for the Disney Plus presentation for sure. And they would edit, if for instance, if they would present the parks and experience night, that they will edit a lot too, because particularly the Deadpool sequence.
Yes.
Okay, they would never show it that in Disney Plus.
That was a sort of surprise appearance in Deadpool, and
And
it was just
wait,
poking fun about blue sky ideas and just
everything.
Yeah,
No more blue skies. No more eating in trash cans in
Fix the
Epcot.
Yeti.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Fix the Yeti. It was great.
there are ideas for next time at D23.
Yeah.
But going back to the sort of the parks section, was there anything big that you weren't expecting that got announced?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think we went into it not really knowing. We knew they were going to make announcements. It's Disney, and so they're going to do the thing. It's Josh, so they're going to do the thing where they make it seem like it's an announcement. But we have known about this now for 2 or 3 or 4 years already, right? Like so, like, oh, hey guys, by the way, Test Track's going to be like, yeah, okay, we know that. And by the way, here's these other things that we've been doing.
Here's Zootopia at Animal Kingdom.
Even like the Villains Land, which was the big reveal type of thing, they already told us that in 2022. We sort of knew that was, and it wasn't really any. Actually, in some ways, it was less conceptually presented. At this
you're
one
right.
Than at the
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It was more
2022.
mystery. Yeah.
That was that was really weird, and that part was weird. Certainly, the Cars piece coming to what used to be Frontierland in Magic Kingdom is one. I think the Coco
That was a
attraction
surprise.
Going to
That was
California
a surprise.
Adventure.
Because
Weird.
originally, was it in the last D23, they mentioned that it was going to be
that could be a
part of that blue sky was going to be beyond Big Thunder.
Yeah, that's what I think a lot of us were expecting, and I would have loved to see. But it looks like it's going to be great. And Coco deserves an attraction for sure.
Yes.
I think there were some little surprises in the Avengers Campus expansion.
The new attraction that will be attached to the Thanos attraction there, the one that is the little
attraction.
claws, like a bonus thing. Yeah,
That was cool.
And I think that for that night, the biggest. It was, and actually it was a really really big surprise. It were the four ships for Disney Cruise Line. That came out of nowhere. Particularly because we had to assume like 5 ships coming, because a few weeks before we had the announcement for the ship in Japan. That was big too. But the additional 4, it came out of nowhere. I think it was a big surprise. Not a surprise because nobody heard of that about that before. And what is not a surprise is that probably that is the area in the whole company that is with better performance. I think in terms of
the profit margin on the cruise line is
what they're doing in terms of the cruise line is amazing. So
that was
they're going to have 13 ships in total.
Right. Now there's some speculation that 13 may not last very long, that it may become 11 pretty quickly.
Yes.
After that, but yeah. I don't know, the numbers were important that night.
Yep.
I don't know if there was anything else that was a surprise. I think we kind
of
knew.
I think it was the Monsters.
No, the Epcot.
Monsters Inc. for me.
Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
I mean, if it happens.
I would say it's been rumored for years, so at least we have some kind of clarification that in the works, potentially.
there were a lot of rumors a little bit before the expo of D23 that the monster the Doors coasters was coming. Okay, so that's something that there was already a strong rumor. Because that coaster itself is not something, in terms of idea, is not something new.
Right.
It is it has been
keeps coming back
since 2007. So it's something that we heard already a lot before. The idea of having that Monstropolis, because that is something that was kind of a surprise. Okay, but actually, for me, was a big surprise was the Epcot lounge, the spaceship Earth lounge.
My reaction to it was like,
makes sense.
No, it's I'm more than happy with that, but I never heard something that they were doing.
No, I hadn't heard anything ahead of time. No.
It's probably going to be better than Communical Hall. So,
well, let's not celebrate too soon.
Not yet.
Ben. It'll only be better because it'll serve alcohol.
Yes.
It'll look better after a few.
And they'll have seating.
And hopefully it will match the concept art a little bit.
Let's hope so. Now, in fairness, we don't know what the inside of it looks like currently.
You mean the lounge?
Lounge that's
they showed a little concept art.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yes.
So currently it had because you could do a backstage tour.
Yeah, it was like a former
executive
executive lounge or something.
It was one of those sponsored lounges, and it had a glass grand piano in it. I've got photos.
Is it that one, or was
is
it
that the one that they
at...
used to play in the rain during the Olympic opening?
That's the one that looks out over. No,
that's different.
It's a different one. That's the one that looked out over Fountain of Nations. Yeah,
and that's a different piano than the one that's over near the Seas Pavilion, right?
Yeah,
that's in there.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, and now you'll be able to sit there and look out over the Plantis.
Yeah,
so that's nice.
Talking about tours, one thing that I cannot forget to mention, you guys, what I did in Disneyland this time is that I finally did that Main Street USA tour. That by the end you visit the Walt's apartment above the fire station.
He made us all nervous because he stood too close to the table.
He was real close to the lamp. I was worried about the lamp.
No. But they put me there. So he's here. You go there. So I behaved myself.
They don't know Carlos very well. He might steal the lamp or fall down. There's no telling.
But it was amazing. That experience is really good.
Do you expect that Epcot lounge will actually stay a lounge accessible to everyone, or do you think that they will quickly convert it to this is where we do a dessert party for viewing the nighttime?
I don't know whether to do
like DVC or something.
Let's see. I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know how the views will play out from there.
Because in fairness, they didn't announce that it was technically public, right?
They just said it was a lounge.
Oh, it's public. I mean, that would be just mean.
That would
we
be
never
wrong.
said it was
but
public.
Here's a lounge,
yeah,
but
they
you're
never
not going to go to it.
technically- Yeah.
No,
Well, they
they
said the
won't.
same thing about Top of the World Lounge when that came out originally. I don't think they billed it as DVC. I could be
This
very
is-
wrong about that. It was a long time ago. But
This time next year, we'll find out, and they'll
Yeah,
be like, "Oh no, you have
exactly.
to."
when it's
here's
the new
the
DVC
entrance
lounge
fee.
when they have ideas for imagination.
I guess for me, that was a surprise that nothing was announced for the Imagination Pavilion. Really nothing, because I don't count Test Track.
It was already announced.
Nothing
It
was
was
announced
already
for Epcot.
For Epcot.
Other than the lounge.
I've-
There was
I've-
nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
I was like, oh.
No,
But-
what they
Test Track was-
said.
They made a big song and dance about, there are no walls now at Epcot. Then obviously Test Track
Yes.
starts getting
No,
built.
everything. Now
And
the
they called
work in
whole
Epcot is
presentation
finished.
Horizons, and they
That's what I was going to
song.
say.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Epcot. I know when Epcot's finished. Like, no. You just said Walt Disney said nothing's ever finished. Nothing's ever finished.
Mhm.
You can't say Epcot's finished.
Yeah. And Test
There's all
Track's the
this
same concept
space.
art we saw 6 months ago.
So you're telling me that the African Trading Post is fine, like it is? Are you telling me that so we're not doing anything with the back of Morocco? Nothing. It's just going to always be Advent, not Advent. Is it Advent Health or Florida Blue, whatever they are? That the little lounge space that should be where the
Is that
dancers
still
dance
there?
and the. And
I think you bring it up the opportunity for us to discuss another thing is that I have a feeling that some things that they didn't want to announce or they're holding for the future but for instance, this week we start to have to see the permits for reflections for immediate work to starting there. So why they did not mention at all reflections during D23?
This is the hotel that is what
Fort
maybe
Wilderness.
Stopped during COVID.
possibly getting built between Fort Wilderness and Wilderness
Well,
Lodge that they started back in 2019 and then it
Yeah.
paused during COVID and then it stopped and then it went away and
No, it's just
Now
big
you
empty
only have-
space.
Yeah, and now permits were filed this week for that
but what's the nature of the permit?
construction.
It makes you wonder if they found something like unsteady ground or something they didn't want to release to the public because that
I don't think
area
so.
historically has had all kinds of stuff.
Unless by unsteady ground you mean bank account issue.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I
Or unsteady
I just
stockholders.
assumed that the old permits had run out because they hadn't built anything,
Possible.
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
so they had to
could have
refile
come
them. I'm assuming they have a.
There's probably a cost priority because the thing is, when that got cancelled, that's when they announced was it the Polynesian having an hotel
Probably.
built.
Yeah, it was
So
right
they
in that
probably
same
diverted
timeline.
those
Well,
funds to.
to me that was weird. So they talk about Test Track, which we all knew about, and we've seen that concept art. They
Yeah.
shared the same concept art we've already seen, but they said nothing, zero, nada about the Polynesian Tower,
Nope.
Which is opening.
no, you know why?
which was
You know why?
so weird to me. Like
Because
guys,
it was
this is sacred
It was in
ground.
the Expo.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like this, the presentation should be about. These are the things that are coming to.
It was like we'll put on
But-
Disney Pass
but-
for the day later. It's like they
Yeah,
just ran out of.
but
really.
that's
They
that's
did,
the
No, but Carlos, you can't. Like 2 days later, basically on the heels of the hotel, I forget the name of it, at Epic Universe. It's like right on the heels
Yeah.
of them releasing that video. They
Helios.
released there's that additional concept art for.
no. But
this hotel.
what I'm mentioning is for the ones in the show. Okay, on D23, we saw it in the very first day, in the Friday of the show. We saw it the booth. There was a whole booth about the Polynesian resort. So that's why it was not in the following day. In the following day, in the presentation, there was nothing for them to present because they show everything in the show floor. There was a booth there. You could get into the room of Polynesian, the new Polynesian extension. So it was like a booth.
But it was weird if you're running down the list of the things that are coming, and it wasn't like that was the only thing that was also available on the expo floor that got play. I mean, there are other things got play that we all know about. It's
Yeah.
like Disney Cruise Line had a booth. Now they didn't have a thing explaining the 13 ships that were going to be part of the
Yeah,
fleet, but
So
they still gave you little glimpses of things coming to Disney Cruise Line that are also on display in that booth. So
that was also not mentioned. That was also not mentioned in that night. So what I'm saying is that the focus and things that they show in the floor, they did not mention in the show. And then we're not
they've
only
been very particular of what they wanted to announce because
yeah.
I found it odd that the Disney Destiny cruise ship got announced like 4 days before D23. So it was like, okay, what are they going to announce at D23 if this isn't going to make it into like, because previous years they would have gone, oh, well, we'll fill 10 minutes with this space. There's got to be a bit in this.
But they did bring it up in the presentation. I mean,
Briefly, and then just said 4 ships and then moved on.
right.
Yeah, it's kind of part of that change in presentation mentality again, where it's like in previous years they would announce something, then they'd push you to go see it on the show floor. Where now it's kind of the opposite. They put it on the show floor, and if it's there, they're not announcing it in the bigger events, which is kind of an odd backwards thing. But I guess they're trying to sell tickets in doing so.
I mean, they also showed Alani, and Alani's getting nothing new, but yet somehow it made it to the presentation. So I don't understand why you would show an existing resort hotel as part of your parks and experiences presentation, but you wouldn't actually feature a brand new DVC space that is coming this year at the flagship resort, like the flagship park. Like, it makes very little sense unless there was some reason they were staying away from presenting them. And I think there was a lot of that going on.
Could be some booths.
Presentation. Yes. I think they were doing, I think they knew which things could get people upset. They knew what things would get people excited, and they stayed as far away from those things as possible that would maybe get some negative reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed like a lot of the other stuff that was sprinkled in, like Alani, are probably places where they're not getting the bookings they were previously. And it kind of felt that way. It was some of the stuff they brought more attention to that they haven't historically focused on, but they did kind of toss in there.
Like, I thought it was weird that they didn't do more. I know they talked a lot about the Pandora, we're calling, I don't know, part 3 thing, fire and water,
Fire and ice,
yada.
I think.
Right. I don't know. Sounds very Game of Thrones to me, but whatever. I think that it was weird that they didn't talk about more of the development happening in the Anaheim piece, like because that's all publicly available. They have it on their website, actually, and you can see a lot of the planning going on related to that. And that's some really cool concept stuff that they have, and some. It was almost like they became allergic to the blue sky stuff after the 2022 experience, and so instead of saying we're going to do mostly presentations of stuff and very little blue sky, they were like, we're not going to do any blue sky. No blue sky at all.
And there's another thing. I don't know if you're starting to learn with Universal. Universal does it totally different. They shut up the attraction. You only see black things just covering the windows. Then suddenly they open up with new thing. You have not even rumors. So I don't know if they're trying to just avoid complications and say, no, we're not going to announce too much, and that's it.
And some of it may just be the nature of modern media. I mean, see what happened once they announced the Monday morning after the fact, or Sunday night, if you will. It's just poorly handled, but they did it intentionally.
That was sad.
So explain, Colin. Can I expand on what you're talking about?
Oh, you'll explain it better than me. Go ahead.
Go ahead, do it.
No one wants to talk about Tom Sawyer's Island.
Yeah, I mean, it's the case in point that so much of the stuff that they didn't announce in the actual event came out. They told you what they wanted you to hear, essentially. They avoided everything that could be disappearing, and they told you everything that would be coming next. And they did so very well, but it's just not right. It's like Apple saying, hey, we're going to have a new device coming out, but we're not going to mention the software for any previous generation. But they don't do that.
It was even worse than that, buddy. Because they presented on Saturday night, and in my reaction when I say, Cars, 2 Cars attraction in Frontierland, I say, hey, I was happy, cheering up, and I was applauding. And then something came up, I'm like, where are they going to put it out? But then they came up with other announcements. You forget. The next day, you go to the Imagineering booth that they have there. That said, we're going to start to detail all the things announced yesterday. There, you go there. There's nothing about cars.
I didn't know that.
There was nothing about cars. You had the maquette for the Tropical Americas. You could touch the maquette. You can even touch the Madrigal house from Encanto. You could see everything. Nothing about cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes you wonder.
And
It's
then-
like they knew that was going to
and then
explode.
and then Monday morning, when nobody was in the Anaheim convention and
All the
everything was
interviews were
closed,
finished.
all the
Everyone's
interview
left.
were finished. Then
They
they
don't want people
dropped.
asking questions. Yeah.
They dropped the bomb that was that concept art. That then you notice, oh, that's where they're gonna put the
Which
cars
they had
attraction.
to because the permit filings had to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They-
Yeah.
That same day, the permit
I'd
filings.
rather it not be leaked by somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
What
which
was
is
also
exactly what-
interesting is we've all known everything that was going to happen around Frontierland was like beyond Big Thunder. So we thought, okay,
Yep.
everything's going to happen beyond Big Thunder. We never thought about what's going to happen to the side of Big Thunder.
Right.
We
There's
never
no blue sky about like Blue Thunder.
Yeah,
Before
before
Big
Big Thunder.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
It's-
we need to be a little bit more. How can I phrase that? But there were a lot of things that we heard in the past and in the close past, and it was it's not new that they were thinking about using that space, the Don't Sawyer Island and the Liberty
No,
Bell
we've
and
heard
the
that
rivers
for
of
what,
America.
3 years?
Yes, for
At
3 or
least.
4 years at least, that we're hearing from really, really strong sources that say, no, be prepared to say
It's going to
bye-bye.
happen. Yeah.
It's going to happen. So that's something they were thinking for a long time. And I think Jason got really right in our show, in the last show, is the way that Josh D'Amaro presented. That was the point for me that was the sour taste. The way that he did not present it, not that okay. He could have a chance because he's a guy who with a nice charisma. I would rather have the bad news of losing Tom Sawyer Island and Rivers of America during that presentation, for him selling us in a good way what is coming to replace it. And guys, I really trust that something really nice is coming. I think they're gonna do an amazing job there, and I think we're gonna miss Tom Sawyer Island, but we're not gonna regret what they did. But the way it was presented,
Yeah.
that was sad.
Well,
Because-
and it reeks of just mismanagement of media. I mean, they've been down this path several times. And people who are getting the traction on this stuff is clickbaity content. We won't get into that, but it's like they know what's going to happen. So it's like
Mhm.
they're just avoiding it as long as they possibly can until it inevitably blows up, and they're hoping it passes over pretty quickly because you give them a big enough surprise of something new that there'll be enough people of a different generation that will overlook the fact that Tom Sawyer Island's going away or things of that nature, which isn't us, in fairness. But it is really interesting that they just kind of gloss over it. It's just, in my opinion, mismanagement of how you handle your media.
But then they doubled down on the mistake. That was
Yeah,
the problem.
exactly.
Then they doubled down because then there was the speculation around Monstropolis and people who were kind of paying attention to the concept art saw.
And there's
that
two different concept arts.
These are two different, right? And they were both done long before this presentation happened, and
Mhm.
so one is I think pretty clearly Grand Avenue and the Muppets courtyard area, and the other is that animation courtyard area, and so they left it kind of open. All right, so then there's all this nervous speculation, of course, as there's going to be, because the fear of the unknown is the strongest fear.
And you're just
people
pitting your
don't-
audience against itself.
and so then that poor cast member who
Yep.
works in like the IT department or some network. He's on the coding side, I think, of the Disney company, and he has an office in some building behind
The Seagulls guy.
area. Yeah,
The Seagulls guy.
he posts basically on his, I think it was on Instagram, saying, "Oh, I don't know if
kicked
this
out of my office
I
today."
don't know if this means anything based on the announcements, but like we're told that our office is getting moved, and I won't be able to walk into
now you're
Hollywood
talking-
Studios anymore."
Yeah.
And then what was it? The next day or 2 days later, he basically is posting this message saying, "So just so everyone knows, like I'm not speaking on behalf of the company. I'm not giving any insider information. I can't say one way or the other." I was like, okay, someone got a talking to, like a strong talking to.
Legal wrote that tweet. Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think it implies one of two things. Either they themselves, Disney themselves, do not know what's happening,
Mhm.
right, in
Nope.
terms of where it's going to go, or they do, and they still are not comfortable sharing it with the
Yet.
public.
Mhm.
And both of those things to me are a little problematic when like you guys chose to announce this.
Yeah.
You controlled the flow of this information. No one knew that Monstropolis was coming or that any of these spaces were in play or anything like that. You decided to put this out there, so now you own the responsibility to clear it up and
See,
to.
wouldn't it be better? I thought we would have expected on the Tuesday to have find out where Monstropolis is going, because let's get all the bad news out in 1 week. We've had one bad
Rip the Band-Aid
news.
off.
Just get it done.
Or have
and then-
Josh present it at the presentation itself.
Yeah.
So,
so-
it is a point to sell. You have to be a salesman there, and whenever you're talking a good leader is a good salesman. So he had the opportunity to show off his leadership skills and to say, you know, one thing, yes, you're going to lose something that you really care, you really like, and I fully understand and appreciate that. But look what I'm giving to you back.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the opportunity, and that's a good opportunity for a good leader. That's the thing that I think that they should think about it. I know that Bob Iger has the same styles. Bob Iger is another one that doesn't like to bring bad news or any kind of bad news, even if it's connected to something really good. So the skills of flipping that, bringing the bad news of, oh, you know, one thing, I know that you loved on Sawyer Island, and then you love Liberty Bell, the Whistle, the Rivers of America, the whole things that the kinetic of that image, you're gonna lose that.
But they would have had the opportunity to explain that they're going to preserve
What
it
was
in
the-
Disneyland. For example, or
Yes.
something
Yeah.
like that. But
Yes.
it's always
Yeah.
going to have a place. In
Yes.
this
Unless they're
park.
not.
Right. Which in that
But-
case, then I am
yeah.
changing myself to.
I mean,
Go to
it
the
does-
paddle and you.
There you go. There you go. You just go around. You get a
Then
back.
I
right
look
how
like
you
then I
go.
will look
Yeah.
like a Muppet also. Like,
I will love that site. I will love that site.
You're like the professor dude that's sitting
I'm-
next to it, just excited with the vacuum cleaner.
I'm hoping that they do an auction, like a charity auction of some sort for all the stuff on Tom Sawyer Island is what I'm hoping for.
Oh.
Can you imagine? Like
He's gonna buy a
No,
band.
nobody.
gonna buy a barrel bridge.
No. We need to go to Lakeland.
I know we're going to camp out in
We're
Lakeland
gonna
at
build
the
it.
Yeah.
antique place.
We have to go to the antique mall to buy that.
Jason
Sure
will
there's
have
an
a
island
barrel
around there
bridge
you can
across
Barrel
the
bridge.
pool.
Oh, I would in a heartbeat. Even just a single barrel.
He buys the lake
Fun.
just to have that barrel bridge.
I'll be installing a pond. Yeah.
Exactly. Put it across your pool.
So
You know, it does kind of make you think about, though, when you go back to previous announcements, say New Fantasyland or even Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, it was handled better, realistically. I mean, they weren't as blatant about, hey, you're going to lose backlot tour. It was already closed. It was like they kind of eased you into it. And it was, all the shows and stuff that were back there, Lights, Motors, Action, for example. Like, I know people weren't quite as tied to those spaces, but they kind of gave you time to ease into something new.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, oh, this is announced, it's going away. Obviously, they haven't started moving on that yet,
Yeah.
but like you could just announce this piece is going away at this time frame and just kind of ease people that way, which they just didn't do very well.
Which
Just
is
kind of
probably
ripped it
why
off.
It's not
Yeah.
Animation Courtyard that's getting monstrous.
Yep.
mm,
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Because there's
Yeah.
nothing there
That's-
really.
because it's launch bay, which
Yeah.
there's
Launch
nothing
bay.
much
No
in
one
it.
would particularly care if that was where it was
What
going.
was
They'd be quite happy.
interesting that there was no announcement or update of the Little Mermaid,
And I think that's part of it.
and
You know, there was some
that's interesting 'cause
speculation that
there was
that
an
the actual
announcement
space
back
was
in
ruined, but
back in June about that there was
Yeah.
new animatronics. There's a new show and it's coming later this year.
You're right.
But there
and
was
you're
no
right.
gonna
update on it.
happen.
And also they did not mention anything during, because there was that part of the presentation in the Saturday presentation that they had that music that they start to insert and to present many of the new things, the short-term new things. There was no mention to
Right.
Little Mermaid.
No,
Right.
and you think about that space right now as it sits, nobody's going to be really heartbroken. Not a ton of people. I should rephrase that, because there's going to be a select few that the children's activity there, most aren't going to that anymore.
I mean, Disney
There's other
Junior,
things in
the
that park
Disney
they're
Junior
going
dance.
to. Yeah,
I love that show.
I'm sure you do.
They told you to stay away, Carlos. You can't
That's
keep
it.
going in.
That's it. You can't go in there anymore.
No, but I really like that show.
But it does. It begs the question. It's like, it's a big empty hole right now, pretty much. I mean, as far as
Yeah,
taking
and-
in guests and capacity and things like that,
and-
launch bay's cool, but it's kind of run its course.
And
to
I'm
some
I'm
extent.
I'm sure
Yeah.
that
Years ago,
Jason
right?
Yeah.
Jason heard that episode. There is a podcast, really nice podcast with Jim Hill and Len Testa, that they were mentioning. Actually, they were with Jim Shua, which is a former Imagineer. They were mentioned that it's almost impossible to bring down that Disney Junior Play area. If you do that, you're going to compromise the rest of the other buildings that are included, the ones for there is a D20
Club
sorry,
33.
Club 33 lounge there. There is also the the kitchen for Brown Derby. There's several things there, so it's almost a no touch area that for the
Yeah.
Disney.
You have to put something back there if you even remove it. And I think that's part of it with the monsters thing, that I guess you could keep it. You could retheme it and keep it in some capacity.
Oh, yeah, I think of
but
all sorts of
yeah,
things.
you could do a lot of stuff with that space that's more. Disney's not historically been one of those places where this is just exclusive for kids, and that's probably the closest thing they have right now.
But if you're gonna build a ride building like a big, because you're gonna need a Guardians of the Galaxy mission. I mean,
Yeah,
Cosmic
it's gonna have
Rewind
to be launch
style
big.
building, right? It's gonna be back in Muppet Vision area, because I mean, that's where you put the box outside the park, the existing park. There's space for it, and all the infrastructure's there already. I mean, you can pop the new
You've got the
restaurants,
food.
two new restaurants. You can
Yeah.
pop the store in there. It's gonna be
From the
and
store's
it's-
already closed.
There
Well,
is-
it
I
was.
mean, like,
Is
you
it
can-
still
you can-
closed?
Yeah, the store's been
Yeah.
closed. They're not-
Yeah.
and the Christmas shop is hardly ever open, if
Yeah.
open now. Right?
I don't think I've
Like,
seen it open since COVID.
Pre-COVID.
And Mama Melrose, I love your steaks. Everything else is garbage. So it's fine. It's fine. And I'm a huge Monsters Inc. fan. The only thing, like, what we all are afraid of losing is, I think, the fountain, the Miss Piggy fountain, and
That needs
and
to
Yeah,
be
that's the only
preserved.
thing that needs to
the
stay.
theater. And it's so ironic, because this has been basically the plot line for at least a couple Muppets movies, is like the Muppets studio being torn down, right? I think they can relocate that somehow. They can do. I mean, that I would look. Hey, if you want to make Animation Courtyard a Muppets area,
That would be good.
I'm all for that, man. Do that. Like, I would support that in a heartbeat. I don't think people are wedded to a specific area. Like, oh, we can't move this theater. Like, we don't, like, this experience can't be somewhere else.
Move that theatre into Launch Bay Theatre. It's
They
just
actually
you've got.
do have a theater there. That's true.
No, but there are also the ideas of moving Muppets to another park, moving to Magic Kingdom, to the Liberty Square area, something they already did before.
I would be. I mean, at this point, now that Frontierland's gone, and I know they're saying it's not gone. I know they're still calling it Frontierland, but there's no doubt in my mind, a decade from now, it's going to be called something else, and that's okay, because they've made it clear that Magic Kingdom is no longer meant to be a sister park of Disneyland, which is what it was intended to be, right? But so, okay, Band-Aid's ripped off, fine. Let's call it what it is, something else. And if you want to move Muppets there, oh my, that would be that would be great.
Yeah.
Be great. I don't.
They're going to do what they
that,
did to
but-
California Adventure, in my opinion. I mean, they're going to take it and they're going to put it into little sections, and it's going to be different than what it is currently over time. Now, obviously, it's not going to be overnight, but I mean, we already saw it. I mean, Tiana's, obviously, that's a great debate, but also at the same time, like, they're already kind of sectioning that out.
Did you end, buddy?
For the first time, yeah.
And isn't that amazing?
Lovely. The only complaint, I know this is totally off topic, but like my only complaint about it is that I don't think they do a good enough job setting up the story in the queue. I think they have a lot of opportunity to set the story up better. Beyond that, though, the queue is amazing. Claire was right. The music's fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah, the musical part is.
And I really enjoyed with the changes that they made. It's a beautiful, beautiful attraction. And still just as much fun, really. So I'm happy with it.
I dare to say that
Cars neighbor, but
that during the time there was a Splash Mountain, I was not a big fan. Not because of the attraction itself. I didn't like to get wet there. But I'm for Tiana's Bio Adventure, I'm gonna be a frequent attendant there.
At this time, and having spent, we were there during part of the monsoon, and we camped out in Pinch Raiders and then later in Pecos Bills, and it is time for Pecos Bills to go.
Yeah, it's been that way for a while. It looks old. Yeah,
it is not even. It isn't even as good as was that in Tomorrowland, the
Cosmic
Cosmic
Ray.
Ray? Cosmic
It's not
Rays?
even. It's
Yeah.
basically Cosmic Rays is better than Pecos Bills now. Like the condiments are better at Cosmic Rays. I mean, it used to be you could make a salad at the
Yeah.
Fixins
Well, they got rid
bar
of so
in
much.
Pecos Bills.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You don't even have the ketchup.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
just an
crazy.
empty counter now. Yeah.
So I think it's time, and I would love to see them put in some like a Tiana's restaurant of
Would-
some sort. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
When it
Because
gets
Would
to
be
a certain
good.
point, it's like if you're going to do it, you got to do it all the way. And
Yeah.
I mean, originally, I'll be the first to admit I was hesitant about that. But if you're going to start blocking things up and have different spaces, you got to go all in. You can't just halfway do it. Almost caught myself there, but you kind of have to, because if you're going to do it, you kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off and acknowledge the fact that these are new sections. Yeah, they're going to blend at some point, and there's going to be some carryover there. Obviously, you're going to have like the train station stuff. It's not going to be 100%, but it's not at Disneyland either.
another thing that I
Oh, what's he
learned,
writing down?
another thing, rip the Band-Aid off. That's
He's going to have to Google that after the show.
And we'll demonstrate.
Or
it to him
Brazilian.
next time he-
Yeah.
no, I know what it is. It's something that I learned. Band-Aid off.
He Googled it a few minutes ago.
It's always an educational show.
Yeah.
When you get somebody from Kentucky and a Brazilian on the same show, you're going to have some of those moments.
But yeah, I know it's off the topic. It's off the top to 23, but bringing the land and word together. I just I'm just receiving a message from my wife here asking if he can go to Orlando during the weekend. What happened?
Yeah, it's always yes. The answer is always yes. When the spouse asks if they can go to Disney World, the answer is always yes.
Oh yes,
Yes.
oh, I'll definitely go. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
but one thing, in Disneyland, I had the opportunity to spend to experience the Tiana's restaurant there, which is a kind of a quick service, and
The one they
Yes.
rethemed
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
used to be, what
it
was it
is
called before?
amazing. It is amazing, and I even don't like Asian food. It is great.
How do you not like Cajun
No,
food?
no. Yeah, it's really
Story
it's
for a
really
different
good.
day.
No, but I don't like it, but it was amazing. It was amazing. I love the place. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah, I
fast.
mean that was very light. I mean, they basically had all that food already. They had beignets already.
Yeah, but the ambience is great.
What was it called before? Because it wasn't Cafe Orleans, it was the other one, right?
yeah,
You know what's Cafe Orleans the thing?
There's two. One's this is the one that's closest. This is the one that's closest to Haunted Mansion. This is the
Yes,
one they've
yes.
renamed.
Yeah. Kind of sits on the corner there. I
And
find
they-
it
Where the
correctly.
mint julep walk up, mint juleps and beignets station.
Yeah. Okay.
The
I can't
beignets-
remember. But
The beignets were not that good because now they have the thing of the beignets filled with lemon or lime cream. I don't know.
No,
I
that's
don't
a
do
donut.
lemon.
You don't fill a beignet. That doesn't.
Yeah, it's gross, but it's there. It's there.
Hmm.
The other thing that they're doing, and I mentioned to you guys a lot, that and I know if they're doing in Disney World now, but there is for the summer, but are the lemonades.
No, that's not. That has not become a Magic Kingdom thing.
Oh my gosh, everywhere. DCA and Disneyland. Every single different types of lemonades there is
It's
beautiful.
bizarre. I'd expect that more in Florida than California.
Sweet tea. Sweet tea is what we get here.
That's it.
Although not
Good stuff.
neither really.
I'm going to lose a lot of people that don't like me right now when I said that.
It is
Sweet tea and June bugs.
So, Claire, what was your favourite announcement? Because I know you were probably too busy. Were you flying
I
out
was on an
the day?
aeroplane.
You're on an aeroplane.
Yeah, I was on an
Yes.
aeroplane when it was being announced. It wasn't Cars Land, I'll tell you that. I am not a fan of Cars as a film. I just,
Cars won, but that's it.
actually, it's something that I'm actually quite disappointed that they've chosen that franchise, which I know it works in DCA and I know that it's, well loved, but I think there's so many other things they could have done.
I was just hoping
If
for
they're gonna-
Coco. I really thought Coco would fit in Magic Kingdom, but
I
Coco
just,
would fit in
yeah,
it. It would, and I think they would transition to Villains Land really nicely too.
yeah.
I think that's the bit that I'm most excited by. And I know that Jason and I had a conversation about this when I was there in terms of Villains Land and how they do a transition to that area. And like my ideal situation would be it would come from Haunted Mansion. You would take an underground pass, underneath some of that Cars Land area, which is, transitions you into a villains area.
Yeah.
I think that they could do something really spectacular, take you down to the Hades, to the underworld. And, I think there's so many opportunities with that. And, it will be an amazing addition. and it will be, the other side of the coin. And I think that Magic Kingdom's busy when it's peak season. It's very, very people-y.
Yep.
And having a bigger area where you can lose some people in the back of the park, I think will help.
Oh, yes.
It will
I'm
eat
hoping for
people very, very well.
But
I'm hoping for Elephant Graveyard in the villains area.
don't you worry a little bit about because we all I think are in agreement that this is a way to get the capacity up, right? They're going to be able to put more guests,
More square footage. Yeah.
But as long as you're doing your nighttime spectacular in an alleyway,
It's going to be awful.
I don't understand, especially as you've reserved. I mean, now how much is that space in the hub is now paid access areas for people attending dessert parties and so forth. Where are you going to put all the people? I don't know where you're going to put all the people because it's already to me, it's on a crowded day, it's a terrible experience to try to.
Well, and we're forgetting one announcement. Nighttime parade's back.
Yeah, which is going to complicate things.
It's going to make it even worse.
Yeah. So I don't really, unless you have a competing projection show or something happening somewhere else in the park, which could draw people away. That's worked in Disneyland.
They used to work in Hollywood studios as well because you'd have Phantasmic and then you'd have on the theater, the projections and fireworks.
I don't know,
which I miss.
Well, yeah, that's I don't know. I'm with Claire. I don't hate cars like she does, but I don't. It doesn't do anything for me. I do love Radiator Springs in DCA because the immersiveness of it. You feel like you're walking into, what would be this Hollywood set, right, for that movie that was animated. That's fun. That's cool. That's part of what Disney's about. This is something we've never experienced. Maybe the new Cars film coming out will have a rally element to it or something, possibly.
I don't question that they're going to make it look amazing, and the engineering and the Imagineering that they will create Radio Springs or whatever that backdrop looks like. It will make us forget very quickly that it was Tom Sawyer Island.
Oh yeah,
and it will look incredible. I just don't feel that of all if you're going to put a franchise or some sort of known entity, whether that be Coco or Cars or whatever it is, into Magic Kingdom in that spot, I don't know why you would choose Cars because it isn't the most successful option.
Yeah, and I will say this with some hesitancy because I am kind of the Cars fan in some capacities, just like the original one, not the following one. I never even saw them actually. But the question that somebody brought up to me was like, what demographic are they going after here?
That's it.
Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, because unless it's people that are like my generation that grew up kind of watching that and then their kids, but they're still years off of that realistically before somebody's going to be able to sit there and explain, okay, this group to this group, we used to watch this as a kid. But
you didn't ever watch that. That's the thing.
There's
almost a Galaxy's Edge nature to this where it's like, it's familiar IP, but it's not actually the part that we really liked. The part that we really liked is in California
It's just a random
Adventure.
Piece. Yeah.
But even more than that, they've made a Cars attraction in Hollywood studios that's utter trash. It's awful. So I don't know why you would want to piggyback on something that's dreadful.
They haven't used the market research from that, have they? Because every time when we've been in there once and it was
my daughter. She'll tell you what she thought of it.
It is air conditioned. There's that.
Yeah,
that didn't even win it for her.
I even forgot about that one.
Yeah,
right. This is it. It's a forgettable franchise.
I've been in it one time.
I left
before the show started.
No, I won't say.
They need to make it Muppet themed.
I won't say that it's a forgettable franchise. It's a forgettable, I would say, experience, and now it's not even an attraction. In terms of the French, I'm not a big Cars fan too, but I have to tell you, Radiator Springs Racers is for me the best Disney attraction ever. I haven't been to, so I'm
I
a
would
big
agree.
fan.
It's just odd. It skips my generation. It skips many of our generations, realistically. And they're trying to pigeonhole a group between me and kids that are like 3 right now. It's kind of an odd place to start.
But no one's ever seen this in the movie either. We've never seen.
Yeah, none of these people have seen these in the theaters beyond the last.
Do Americans even know what rally is, really?
Not a whole lot of them. I do, but I'm a car person.
It's not even a thing. I mean, put NASCAR in or something. Put a NASCAR track. Sure, you're gonna. A lot of people will come.
It went so well the first time.
But does it belong in Frontierland or next to Frontierland?
Well, that's the thing. I
or-
don't think it's going to be
and-
Frontierland by the time he
No.
gets here.
It's the West.
Like-
it's basically becoming.
Yeah.
This is the American.
I see this
West.
more like Grizzly Peak than anything else.
But it's not really the,
And I
it's the
could be
American
fair.
West. It's like the American South by West. It's like kind of because
Mid Southwest.
because
Mid-Southwest.
the South.
You're easing
look,
west.
and for anybody who yeah, well, I will debate this all day long for all the people who are like, I don't understand why Tiana's is in Frontierland. Like, hey, why was Splash Mountain in Frontierland? Because Splash Mountain was from Song of the South, not Song of the West. Like, it didn't make sense then. It doesn't make sense now. Stop like the retheming.
It mostly
of the whole
matched
area has to happen.
aesthetically, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. I think that's the kind of blue sky that people do want to see. People do want you to announce attractions and stuff. But if you're going to bring a new vision to the flagship park within the company, right? Like you bear responsibility to not just sell the vision, but actually just provide the vision. So you can't say, oh, we're going to put Tiana's here and cars here, and we're still going to call it Frontierland because basically the frontier now is redefined as anything that happens out west. That's not frontier. So let's just like come, unless you don't have a vision, which is scary, but maybe that's true. They need to tell us and show us like with nice concept drawings and maybe some modeling like they did with Galaxy's Edge. Like, what is it? What is the story that's being, what is the
Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land was the perfect way for Disney to explain the vision, show what we're going to get. Whether the end product will be that, it will change. It always will do. But we don't know what that is. We've just seen, cars next to Big Thunder Mountain. That's it.
Yeah, and I know I'm probably not the only one who thought this, but I mean, when they announced that initially, when in the live stream and that kind of stuff, when we all saw it kind of debut, I mean, my mind immediately went Thunder Mesa. Like, as far as beyond Thunder Mountain, you're going to put a Cars element on something like that. Rewind the Tony Baxter isms, if you will, and kind of work that angle, and that would make a lot of sense. But it's not at all what we got, at least not yet.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Colin.
Yeah.
You know, that what has happened is that Frontierland, in inverted commas, has become a disjointed lack of continuity space with lots of different things. If you compare that to Frontierland in Disneyland Paris, which has a really strong story that pulls the entire area from the fort at the beginning through to Phantom Manor, all the way through the whole zone, the whole land. That story is secure and strong, and you wouldn't be able to just drop cars in there because it wouldn't fit the story. What they've done is lose the story of Frontierland, and then it feels like they're scratching around as to what can we put in there, and then we'll write the story afterwards, which for me is the wrong way around.
They won't, though. They won't, Claire, because we have precedent for them not rewriting the story. And
that's not the right thing. That
and it's
doesn't
just on the
sit
other
comfortably.
side. It's just on the other side of the same park.
Yeah.
Because if you walk into Tomorrowland, there's not a single one of us who can string some sort of story together to explain
There was a
what
whole
we
film about it.
experienced there. No,
Don't go there.
And so Disney, this is the piece that worries me, is that they actually have recent precedent with putting Tron in, for example. I am worried that the same thing is happening to Frontierland, where they're saying, look, we know what attracts guests. New attractions attract guests. Let's put a new attraction in here that's going to attract guests, and we'll expand the capacity of the park in the same breath. And and eventually we're going to do Villains Land, which is going to be massively popular. But in the meantime, like, we are not really focusing on what the story is going to be from a concept standpoint. And we're also, I don't think, putting a lot of thought, or maybe they are, but they're not telling us about it, into how we're going to manage this massive number of people coming and going in the beginning of the day, because it's a ginormous number of people that they're going to be adding to that park. When you put Villains Land in,
and how ugly it's going to be when they're building, because at the moment it's beautiful. Let's face it. You've got the ferry boat, you've got the Rivers of America, you've got Tom Sawyer Island, and it doesn't eat a lot of people. Again? It doesn't absorb a lot of people. The capacity of that area is massive, but people don't go back there.
No, I think the biggest people here that they're gonna lose during that construction, if they need to close it, is going to be the trains, railroad.
But even
Yeah.
that doesn't get a ton of
I
traffic.
just can't imagine them closing it again after
in
how
terms
long
of
it's closed
in
for.
terms of capacity, it's mind blowing, buddy.
It is,
one of
but
the
I mean, in
biggest.
terms of how many people actually run, if compared to Disneyland, it's very few people ride the railroad.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the Walt Disney World Railroad. Don't think that I'm saying we don't need it. I love it. If they get rid of it, I will lose my mind. But I don't think that they are going to lose any sleep closing it down to do construction
Again.
Yeah.
Again.
It's just going to be ugly. It's
Yeah.
until it's done. It's going to look horrific.
It's
That
been
much.
Magic Kingdom
because
with
they
walls.
did like with New Fantasyland. I remember the construction period there. They did a nice job of walling it off, and then they did put concept art up so you could see what was coming. And then eventually they had the little peak, the little
windows.
The little
you could
window.
look through.
through
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so that's kind of fun. They didn't do any of that stuff with Epcot recent,
No.
whatever we call that.
Yeah,
Berlin
and
Wall
it kind of begs the
situation.
question because to me, it again, I don't want to use the same example again, but it kind of makes sense. Like DCA is very much this way, but I wasn't there while they were building Avengers Campus. How did they handle that? Were you out there, Jason, during that?
I was.
Did they just block it off?
Yes, I was out there doing. Yeah, it was just completely blocked off in that area because they used to have that little Bugs Life area, that little
Yeah.
rides area. That just got blocked off and walled off. The Tower of Terror retrofit sort of re-theming that happened fast. That was like so. I
do remember that.
It was between visits that had happened when I went, and it was almost like overnight sort of thing. I think it was maybe 3-month period of time that they did it. I mean, it was wicked fast. And I think that's so they can move quickly. This is not a move quickly kind of project. This is a
What do you think the timescale is going to be?
I mean, based
I'd
on
say at least
recent
3
history,
years. Yeah.
20 years?
Like-
5 years, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I mean,
like
5
a 3
years.
to 5 year category. Like,
Yeah.
because they're not starting until next year.
Yeah. I think 2029, I think, when,
Yeah, 2029,
Villains
2030, I see. I think.
and I think 2028 will be Cars. Be about a year
In terms
before.
of the villains land area,
See, the difference is they can build that without doing anything in the park at all. They can just add that so they can get on with
they
it.
work back. Yeah, they work kind of from the back
Yeah.
to the front, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. They could, and maybe they will. Maybe that's what they're doing. It's weird to me that they didn't show any more concept because I don't believe that since 2022. Let's go back. Let's go back in time here. We've known through some sources that this area was in play for a long time. Okay. So that doesn't mean that they had definitive ideas of what they were doing, but they kind of have different concepts.
they knew it wasn't going to be what it is currently.
Right.
Yeah.
So in Villains Land, we know has been in play at least since it was announced, which probably means it was in play even before it was announced, right? Probably not the day before the D23 Expo in 2022. So it's weird to me that over the next 2+ year period, you haven't come up with any additional concepts that you are willing to share with the public. To me, that's weird.
That's weird. That's
weird.
Yeah, but let's remember another thing, buddy. I think that a lot of that went through the last 2 years is that they were aware that they were a division that was making money and was paying the expenses of the rest of the company, and then probably they were holding that to the cash to be safe regarding the future of Disney Plus or how the students are doing.
The capital budget is already, allocated for the Like I know
Now.
specific money. Yeah, now that's true.
Yeah.
The specific
Yeah.
money still hasn't been programmed for some of these things. We also know that, like Monstropolis,
Yeah.
even though there's a capital budget allocated for these projects, that specific project has not internally
Not being funded.
yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And it
doesn't
begs
mean
the
it's not
question on
happening.
some of this, if it ever will be. But
Right.
we'll see. Yeah.
I just
We
think
saw what happened
Villains-
with the last event.
I don't know when. I honestly, given, and I know COVID affects a lot of things, but given how long it took them to get Epcot finished recently, like the whatever that is that they did, it really worries me. Like I don't see how Villains Land happen
I don't either.
inside this decade.
Yeah, I don't either.
But then
And
why
it's
would you
rare that
announce
we
it in
agree.
2022
Yeah.
and then also in 2024 if it's not going to get here until 2035?
It all depends, buddies. It all depends. There's something that is happening next year that could change things or not.
Iger's retirement.
Not only that, but also and that's something strong. but also what's happening in the other side of the road.
Oh,
So,
with Epic Universe.
Epic
yeah.
Universe.
Right.
They're
But-
going to
So-
need to
So let's
do
see.
something quickly.
I have to.
I really don't know. Historically, anytime that that Universal does something new, it helps Disney in terms of attendance. Let's see what's going to happen, because up to now we don't see. I really don't know if the Epic Universe will affect Disney at all, or if Epic will affect a lot the other Universal Studios parks, the Island Adventures and Universal Studios Orlando. We still don't know. We still don't know how they're going to operate in terms of tickets. I already told everybody, if they come up with the idea that, well, for you to visit Epic Universe, you need to buy Island Adventures and Disney Studios, I'll be the first one to say, you know one thing? I'm not going. I'm not going. So that is a lot of stuff that is in play that probably will affect all those timelines. I was really surprised with a lot of things that they announced in D23, because a little bit before D23 we had the numbers from Comcast, and the numbers were not good at all.
Not impressive.
But Disney could also take a page. I mean, if Universal successfully pulls off a park limitation strategy like that, where they say the only way to visit this park is to buy a multi-day ticket to visit, and you can only visit this park one of those days. You can't go multiple days to this park, which is what I think they're going to end up doing.
Mhm.
Then
I don't think they have a
and-
choice. Yeah.
I mean, it is the smart move. I think Disney could. I mean, they already have the reservation system in place. I think we could see Disney doing something similar after they get a Villains Land built, for sure. To say, look, we have to limit capacity. There's going to be a ton of people who want to see this. We're going to give a priority to resort guests, and then we will have a multi-day ticket that includes, of course, visiting Magic Kingdom, but it's only one of those days. And that could be a direction they go.
But and we tend to be quick to forget that Disney's been going down this path for quite a while at this point. They're getting more and more specific on how they want to control crowds to certain parts of the park, to certain parks that you go to, what days you're going to such and such parks, and they can control it. We've seen them do it. I mean, there are days you walk in Epcot and you walk in Hollywood Studios, one's empty and the other one's packed. That's not unintentionally a lot of the time. I mean, there's staffing concerns there. There's all kinds of things in place. Now, it wouldn't be much of a step for them to go to that, realistically. They've put the infrastructure together for a reason, and they've got this down the road that, hey, if we can control it, we're going to. And as much as we hate it, that it's different than it used to be, that we can't just show up at a park, there's a reason they're doing it. There's several reasons they're doing it. So, I mean,
well, I think
it
in
is
this case,
very
it would be
interesting.
I think it's a reasonable reason to say we don't want to overcrowd the park. And we have to be able to, we actually do need to pay some attention to the experience guests have arriving and departing the park, because that is their first and last impression. And right now, especially the departure impression from Magic Kingdom for anyone, unless you're walking to Bay Lake Tower or Contemporary, there is no good experience leaving that park. You're staying in Poly, staying in Grand Floridian, there is no good experience leaving that park. So that matters a lot. So if they say, oh, we're going to limit, the number of people visit to help prove that to me is reasonable. If I don't know that they'll do that or not. What I don't like is when they get involved with other kinds of crowd management that actually makes things worse. And case in point is what they're doing at the, number one is what they're doing with the whole D-Pass thing, whatever, Lightning Lane, multi-pass extravaganza,
no
whatever.
thanks.
Right?
Yeah.
But Rosencrown in Epcot now has a queue to get into the pub.
Rosencrown
And you know
has
what?
a queue.
Disney, I got to tell you something. That's not how pubs work.
No.
No.
More of a
work
club
where
thing.
people you go in and you make eye contact with the bartender and you get up, you sort of elbow your way up to the bar and you order your drink. That's how every
That's the
pub in the
experience.
world
That's
works.
how a pub-
That's the experience that we're all looking for when no one wants to queue in the sun to get a cider.
We were in hysterics when we saw them put that out. So I was in the Rose and Crown at the weekend with John and Alison and the boys, and they brought the barriers out. And we were like, what is this? Is this like the Great British Mickey Waffle meet and greet line or something? This is insane. We couldn't believe
Which
that
meant
they
I
were asking.
didn't go. I didn't get a drink because I'm not.
It's-
You
It's
see a
ridiculous.
queue, it puts you off. I remember, Claire, we spoke about the other day about
Food and
Food and
wine.
Wine Festival, that if there's
Yeah.
a long enough queue, we'll just walk past because it's not
Keep
worth
walking.
spending. that amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go somewhere
And-
else, you know?
And I'm afraid that they will, like, the response to a lot of these things is let's actually try to manage it more. Let's try to control it more, as opposed to what you do is you make the space big enough, you make the infrastructure like significant enough that people, it's amazing, they make their own decisions and they follow paths of least resistance, and you just need to listen to the wisdom of the crowd
Yeah,
instead
let it
of trying to
self-select
think that you,
to some extent.
right. Which I do wish that Disney would kind of go back, get a little old school, and let people kind of decide for themselves over things and try to not have so much control. Like Sunday, I actually did the thing where you, like I said, I would never do it, but it was Michelle's birthday, so we celebrated I did the multi-pass lightning lane thing, and guess what? Well, we didn't arrive until, because it's me, we didn't arrive until 10 in the morning into the park. We did basically every single attraction we wanted to do by 2:00, but it required me, I'm in the queue, and as soon as I tap into that second turnstile, I'm now go back in my app and I'm selecting my next multipass lane thing, and then I'm changing this, and now we're going to go from here over to here. Oh, we're over there. Now we're going to go here over to there, and we're bouncing back and forth. And I'm not just experiencing the park as it was really intended.
That's it.
But I got on all the stuff I wanted to get on.
And you've done 35,000 steps. You're exhausted.
I don't want that. Like, I think that what I'd like to see at the next D23 is them saying, we're going to still have paid experiences and things. Fine. You want to have the individual lightning lane? Fine. I think that's fine. But otherwise, go back to old stand, because old standby improves the life for everyone else. If everyone has to stand by, then actually the standby doesn't take so long. And I can decide, do I want to wait 45 minutes for this attraction or do I not?
I was going to say, just like back in COVID era, it was like everything would self-select to a certain capacity. Like if you didn't want to wait 30 minutes in line for Grand Fiesta Tour, like you just didn't, and you went on to the next thing. There was no formal process per se at that point in time. Like there was a few little things, but a few virtual queues, but just people just went on about things, and we all said the same thing to each other. We said, I enjoyed the park experience more. It wasn't about the attractions. It wasn't about the next thing I was going to. It was just being there.
Yeah. And the thing is
And
about going
opening
to
your
that
eyes.
standby queue, we've said so many times the past few years that the whole experience of the ride starts in the queue. So how many attractions, there are certain things in the queue that builds up to the attraction experience.
Yeah, like the Peter Pan's flight, that queue, the refurb that they did with the queue is fantastic. I think
It's fantastic, beautiful.
The Dumbo is incredible. That space inside is amazing. But if you're bypassing that through the multipass system, you lose. I mean, I think the best worst example is probably Cosmic Rewind in Epcot, because the lightning lane for that is
appalling.
Is terrible.
Boring.
It basically looks like Communicore Hall.
Beige corridor.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a hallway.
Rise of the Resistance. Pandora for Avatar.
Yeah, that's terrible
You
too.
miss so much.
So
A Flight of Passage.
I think that I don't know. I fear that they won't loosen the reins on that sort of thing. I think they still will feel like they can control the experience by managing it more and more. That they will be able to control that experience in a positive way. But I think that I'd rather see the attention. Like I would have if they had announced at D23 that they were adding more capacity for the monorail or expanding the Skyliner or bringing Magical Express back, or adding another ferry to take people to and from the Magic Kingdom, or some other. I think people would be just as excited about sort of these infrastructure projects as they would new attractions, because that is like when we arrive at Disney and we hop on the monorail or we get on the ferry, that is the first attraction we're on.
Yeah,
But you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah,
You do
even
inadvertently,
even the
but you know
tram
what I
from
mean.
the parking lot can be it's these experiences.
The excitement of everyone getting Magical Express from the airport to your resort. It was just one of those first things your holiday starts then.
It
Not
began
have
when
to
you packed your bag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It began when you tagged your bag, when you put that tag on the bag and you sent it off, and you had the first time you ever do it, you had that anxiety about, is this really going to work? Does this you think this is actually going to make it in my resort room? Getting off and looking for following the little Mickey hands, getting to the right you and watching the video on the way to the resort, and being with all the other excited families and stuff, and it was those kinds of experiences are things that I think Disney has somehow discounted for some reason, that they don't realize how valuable they are to us. Those little things, and I'm hoping like that in the future D23, like that's maybe put.
There's someone with a spreadsheet, someone going, no, that costs money, so we're not going to do it.
It
But the things
almost
that-
feels like they haven't been a visitor to the park in a very long time. They haven't,
Or even if they have, Becca, they've come with the eyes of
of
an
an Imagineer
which is
rather
different.
than as a
yeah.
visitor.
They're not
I think-
the guests. They don't get the experience. They go, okay, I'm in the park today because I'm looking at this from a business point of view, not from a guest point of view.
Maybe so. I think there are infrastructure things that they could do that would be really simple. Number one, fix the walkway so you can walk all the way from the Magic Kingdom to the Poly. Get that sorted. But also make it so you can walk all the way round. Build a bridge. Make it so you can walk from the Poly round.
Or
walk to the TTC, and let's go to
or
the.
have shuttles, or have inter-resort.
I would really like
shuttles.
that walk. I would
Yeah.
happily walk from the
would.
TTC round at pace.
Well,
to
and
the
chances
Magic-
are they're going to sell more stuff that way. I mean, when you go to the Grand Floridian to try to have a reservation, they give you a card that says you have to be out in less than, I think it's 2.5,
They do
3
now.
hours, something like
Yeah.
that, and they give you a
They
card,
do.
and they'll tell
Go
you.
and park
They
over the
literally
road
will.
as well. Yeah.
It's like, so.
Yeah.
I mean, you're giving away dollars there?
I didn't know that.
but-
They're doing that?
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah, they
because-
did that to me last week.
since
It's because they're
January,
so limited.
February.
Yeah, the only they're so limited on their capacity for parking because of the construction, and I think it's probably going to carry on. And when usually it's the worst, they usually give out the cards when there's a wedding going on or an event of some sort,
I never saw that.
because that's when
Yeah.
the parking lots are really at the tightest. Valet is always an option. You can always you always have the valet option. But I think Disney has. I feel like if I was CEO, the first thing I would do is I would say, all my Imagineers, like when you visit the park, at least every so often, you have to park at the TTC. You have to park in the regular park. Like you have to have that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through the front door, take your badge off.
Yeah.
You have to see it through
The
the guest
furthest
facility.
parking spot in Animal Kingdom. Then you have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
That one I'm
walk.
saying.
As well. That's a nice walk as well. You can't-
Oh, it depends on which side of the tracks you're on, but yeah,
So,
not always a great one.
Depends whether it's the end of the day or not.
Yeah.
but I mean, I'll use myself as an example. I went to eat at Grand Floridian Cafe, just a simple meal, and I planned on going to Magic Kingdom afterwards. I was actually going to meet our friend Megan in Magic Kingdom that night.
Yeah.
And I mean, you go to park, they hand you a 3-hour ticket. Your meal takes you about 2 hours if you're going to sit down there and enjoy your meal. By the time you wait to get seated and all of that,
Mhm.
at that point, you can't go to the shops. You can't do anything. If you're actually going to follow the rules, you got to go back to your car. You got to get in the car. And if you're going to Magic Kingdom, that's not a stone's throw away, and they have a walkway and a monorail to get you there, you have to drive out of the property, leave all the way out to the main entrance, drive all the way back around park, ride a shuttle, get all the way
True.
back to TTC, and then go across another shuttle to get back over there, or get on the same monorail that you were 30 steps from 20 minutes ago.
Mhm.
Like, and it's one of those things, it's just insane. And it's like, I'm going to spend money in your park. I'm going to spend money in your gift shop. I'm going to potentially spend money on dessert when I get to that park. Like, it begs the question, like, how out of touch do you have to be of where your guests are spending their money?
Or
It's like-
just charge the parking. Like I would not be offended if like if you're going to park here and if you're dining here, okay, you can stay here for this period of time. Like here's your window, right? Or you can pay to park here.
Yeah, pay to
Right.
extend it to the end
Fine.
of the day.
Great.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And if you're a resort guest, of course, you're not paying. But although they were charging for a period of time, remember that. I don't know, guys. I think like tying it back to D23. I don't want to sound like I love Disney, and I'm sure
I think we all
that
do,
they're going to do is going to be incredible. It's going to be incredible.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that it doesn't have to all be about the next best thing. Like if you can maybe tell us some stories and maybe make that experience, like if you look upstream and say, hey, how can we extend the magic further and further upstream so that, they're experiencing Disney magic as early as possible. It's not just about like, oh, by the time they get back to New Frontierland, now they're really going to experience this nice thing. Well, maybe have us experience that further upstream. And most importantly, like let people experience it the way they want to just experience. Like do what you can to improve like the areas and improve and sort of take away these paywalls where possible, so that people can just experience the park. And if it means charging more for entrance, then fine, do that. Because I'd rather pay $30 more for a park to enter the park than to pay like $30 to have multipass if it meant that there was no
or if it was a max pass type scenario. We all bought that for $15 a day. Like
but I think it's not fair to compare them. When it comes to the max pass, there's another thing. Disneyland has much more capacity in terms of attractions than the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
So,
sure. I mean, it's a whole thing, but it's like, what do you do for the guest experience? Yeah. Like the guest experience as a whole has to change a little bit than what it is currently. I mean, for people to rationalize what they're paying to be there.
Do we think a lot of the D23 announcements that we've had has been in reaction to Epic Universe? And sort of, we've known this park has been being built for, 5 years or so now. That has
Iger
it just
says
been
10. Iger says they've known it for 10 years.
No, I think the announcements are because of the same reason of Epic Universe, which is theme parks as a business. They're doing really fine for those two companies. They really desperately need something doing fine. So the reason that Comcast is investing in Epic Universe is because the numbers from their theme parks were really good. And the reason that Disney should be investing in the things announced is because the theme parks are doing, actually, the theme parks and Disney Cruise Line were the only thing that were doing fine. So they need to invest on that. That's the point. I don't believe that there's a reaction towards Universal, because there's also another thing. They're investing a lot in Disney World now, yes, because it's the biggest, but they're also investing in the other places. Yeah. So Paris is receiving a lot of investments. The parks in Asia are receiving a lot of investment. We have all the projects, the Disneyland Forward in California. So they're pointing out that yes, so it's not a reaction to. I don't think so. So.
What's weird is there seems to be this lack of center of gravity to a lot of this. Like this came up again in that podcast. And when my son visited Tokyo Disney Sea a few months ago, he mentioned this to me as well, because he and the new Fantasy Springs?
Fantasy Springs, yeah.
The Peter Pan attraction there, he said it's amazing. It's incredible. In fact, he said because of that attraction, it made him want to see a remake of the Peter Pan movie, like into that sort of style of animation, like because it was so cool. But what's interesting is that their attraction includes the scene, and actually goes even beyond that, includes some of the music from the movie that was just removed from Magic Kingdom, right? And I know that that's the sort of cultural, stuff. That's weird to me. That like, and you can say, oh, it's a different, like culturally, it's not a sense. I get it. But Disney as a company, you'd think operates in this unified, like this is our. Like this is the story.
This is our Peter Pan story. This is how it's told.
And I totally agree with you. It's not. And even those that say Disney in Japan is totally different because of actually is run by another company. Yeah, but not that part. Not that part. Imagineering is from Disney.
Right.
So
it's that part is strange to me. So there is, to me, I mean, it gives me both hope. It gives me both hope as well as a little hesitation that there's a chance. Like there's something. There are elements within Imagineering, and maybe it's the fringes. Maybe it's the people who are working on the non-flagship park are probably not the ones who are maybe they're a little newer. Maybe they're and And they seem to be, to me, from what I can see going on in Paris and what I can see going on in Asia, they seem to be more in tune with what we feel like classic Disney storytelling, like those things that are important.
There's a difference in guests too. Yeah.
Whatever's happening in Walt Disney World and Disneyland is different. And
particularly Disney World. I think there's something in Disney World, and for me, I said I would love to see the team, the team that is running Paris, taking over, taking over
the shows,
Orlando.
the music that's composed for their show.
Everything in Paris is we're so properly done.
In Tokyo,
as much as I love so when Epcot unveiled World Celebration Garden, I was a fan. I think it's beautiful. It's relaxing. It's these spaces to sit and just kind of just people watch and eat some food and the meet and greet areas. And it was really nice. The Walt looking out over the plaza. It was really nice. Okay, and then they tear the walls down finally, and here you have the Communicore Hall thing, and you have this bandstand, an area with the lighting and the set. And so now what is it, like salsa music that's playing at night, which completely has destroyed the feel of the Celebration Garden space. And I sit there. It was just there a few days ago. I'm like looking at them, like it just doesn't make sense.
It's like two people have worked on two different projects.
Nothing. It wasn't. No one was thinking about the whole piece.
Yeah, they were tasked. You were doing this bit, you were doing that bit, but you don't talk to each other to work out whether it's going to fit together. And we just here it is.
That part's weird to me, and so I don't really understand what's going on. And my biggest fear is that the people who are in this part gives me hesitation. The people who are in control of Imagineering for the park for Walt Disney World in particular over this period of transition where a lot of investment is happening, that like they're going to end up doing more and more of this stuff. And then when those folks who are doing all these really cool projects in Disneyland Paris and Tokyo DC, when they come into their own, they're going to be faced with this. We really would like to redo this, but we realize that you guys just spent billions of dollars redoing this.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
I think, but it also begs the question, it's something that we probably need to address in this, is that some of these concept arts you're going to have to use a grain of salt. Like most of it's not going to look anywhere near what it looks like currently and what they showed us. Epcot's prime example of that. Almost everything they've done recently has been a prime example of that. Even if you look at the Polynesian Tower, looks very different than when they first announced it.
But not better.
Well, I kind of like it now. Polynesian is a lot better than when they announced it. Yeah.
But we didn't know what they announced, really. They didn't tell us much.
It is a lot better.
You can't tell me that Communicore Hall looks better now.
No. Communicore Hall is a Polynesian. I'm talking about the Polynesian tower. It is a lot better than they were showing.
So for those of you who've ever stayed at the Poly or gone from the Poly into the Magic Kingdom, you know that during certain periods of the day, the queue for the monorail can be pretty significant. Yeah, it can wrap far back into that upper lobby area. Because there's only one security station there, and
especially when Ohana's really hopping in the evening.
Right, right. So I don't know what happens when the tower opens and
they need to fix that path.
You won't be allowed to walk to the monorail. You have to go this way.
Most Americans do not walk to anything.
No.
Maybe they should.
No, they definitely should. But I'm saying
they don't though.
Most people, look at the Grand Floridian right now. How much play does that walkway actually get? Most people are hopping on the monorail, or they're taking, depending on where their room is, or they take a boat over to the park. Most people aren't walking, even though it's a lovely walk. It's
when it's open.
So the tower is even further away, right? Mm-hmm. So most of those people are either going to attempt to ride the monorail, or they're going to walk to the boat, right? And that boat queue is long.
It's slow.
And so it's an infrastructure thing. That's my biggest concern, is that we're not focusing enough on that infrastructure piece.
You're right.
Like Poly, the big announcement should have been, we're building a new boat pier, and we're going to have more boats or larger boats like arrive and to transport people. Because otherwise the experience, this sort of first mile experience people are having is going to be pretty bad.
It's not good right now.
The Skyliner, when you leave Epcot through International Gateway,
Ooh,
it's a terrible experience.
It's a huge line.
No one enjoys that. And
Mhm.
It's worse as Hollywood Studios at Caribbean Beach, the interchange place.
So I think that Disney, I would really hope that they would put some more effort into the non-sexy things that Disney fans actually would be really excited about. I think they'd be surprised at the applause that they would get if they announced like, oh, we're going to increase the ease of getting into a park, and this is how we're going to do it, or we're going to actually return Magical Express. How many? Magical Express probably wouldn't cost $1 billion, right? Maybe.
I think D23, especially this year, but possibly in the past as well, is very much about the bells and whistles. So it's all the big announcements rather than all that little everyday stuff, like the infrastructure and how you get to the parks and extra boats and extra monorails. And whether that's just because Disney don't think that those things need a big presentation and they just need a small announcement later on when they've got them all arranged.
Do you think that'll be announced when Disney have got nothing else to announce?
Well, then that would have been this year.
No, again, I think there's several things that probably could be announced without D23. We still have, and I'm not doing any kind of advertising or promoting it, but there's also the D23 experience that's going to happen in São Paulo, in Brazil, in November. That could come. A few things could come up there. I don't know. I don't believe, but you see,
There's got to be something, though. I mean,
no.
I really don't think so.
Just a fan event.
As far as I expect, I think it's going to be a celebration of fan.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, and that's okay. And I think that's the point with the brand D23 that they have to take care of, is that expectation that Disney has to announce something. It is not related to D23. They took advantage of D23 to announce things, but D23 is the official fan club for Disney, is where the fans get together.
So
it's Comic-Con of Disney.
That's a good. Yeah, there's no reason why the announcements have to happen.
They don't have to.
And I have to tell the experience that I have with my audience that is Brazilian. It is when I was showing everything that was announced in Anaheim. The first thing they asked me is that, so what's they going to announce here? Saying, nothing. And so what about D23? But D23 is not an announcement. You're gonna have an event in Brazil close to you that you're gonna have the experience, the opportunity to experience Disney close to you with other friends. That's the point.
Virtual queues for merchandise.
That's the thing about.
But they're the ones who set the expectation up.
Yeah.
Yes.
They created the expectation.
They created the expectation.
Right.
Yes.
So if they're walking that back, I think that's fine. Honestly, as long as you deliver.
A lot of it comes back to poor communication.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to sell the tickets. I don't know how many people are going to go if they're not getting. I mean, a lot of people will go. They probably won't fill a Honda Center if they're not making announcements.
Well,
something.
But buddy, to those markets that are not here. They're not. I imagine a D23 in Europe would do, because they sold the tickets for the D23 in Brazil without explaining anything, without talking about panels, anything. They
Disney
sold.
on Ice still sells out, and it doesn't.
They sold out in 1 hour for 2 days of event, buddy. So
I think anything with the words Disney would sell out.
Yeah. So
when you look at Disney 100 exhibition, the first few dates for that always sold out. I think wherever you put a D23 Expo in the world, it will sell out, because there's enough fans around the world that will go, this will be something that I want to be a part of, regardless of what's happening, because we all don't know what happens, whether there's an announcement or not. We all want to be in that sort of shared area of Disney.
And they did the D23 experience in Japan. Yeah. They did twice. Now they're doing in Brazil. They should do in Europe pretty soon.
I was going to say, if they want to bring one to the UK, I will happily buy tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere in Europe, I think we can fly. It'll be fine. But yeah, I think I was quite satisfied with what was announced at D23 this year. But I'm interested to see what developments happen over the next few years. So I think we should all go around the table and just, what are we looking forward to in the next D23? What would we hope gets announced, or would you like to see? Claire?
Oh, don't come to me first.
Why?
I'm trying to think. What would I like to see?
I can go first if you
Okay,
like.
Go on, Becca.
Yeah, go on, Becca.
I'd like to see them do something to Tomorrowland.
Like bulldoze it?
Well, like refurb it, like revamp it. A lot of it is looking sad and tired and not very futuristic. They've closed down Stitch completely, and that's just an empty space.
You just want to go to Monsters Inc. laugh floor.
Well, you know what? Move it to Hollywood Studios and put it in Monstropolis. It'll fit better there now.
Okay, I like that. How about you, Jason?
I go back to what I was saying before. I think that it won't happen, but I would love to see them announce some upstream investment infrastructure capacity for guest egress and ingress and stuff like that. It probably won't happen, but at least a more definition around storytelling and what this experience will be. I think use your arsenal that you have to show us, like use the volume, where you could put people in the space so we can stand in a room and feel like we're in these new spaces that you're imagining, and explain what the story is going to be, and let us kind of feel that. I think that, because you experienced that, Carlos, with the Lucasfilm, right? I mean, with the you walk in and they use the volume.
IML.
Yeah, you felt like you're in like the movie, because you were able to experience like how they use that for you, and they make. I think that they could do that with the parks, and it would be incredible. But it would mean putting some effort into doing the rendering and everything, and maybe by the next D23, that's where we'll be. We'll have enough definite villains land what that's going to look like and feel like, and we can kind of stand in that virtual space experience.
I think I would, if I was picking something, don't ever quote me on this. I think I'd agree with Jason. That for me, there's a risk of, particularly Magic Kingdom, changing from a theme park to an amusement park because of the lack of story and the lack of consistent thought process, and those silos which just don't connect at all. And that is never what Walt Disney World or any Disney park was ever designed to be. That you can go to Six Flags or wherever you want, and you can ride rides, and they don't have any consistent story. That's why Disney is different. And that's the bit I think it probably upsets me, that they haven't seen the risk of that. And I think if I had a wish,
they haven't shared their vision of what if there
so
is one.
I don't know whether they've got a vision or whether they've been given permission to be creative around that story. That's the bit that comes from the leadership of the board and the permission for the Imagineers to create that story and do what they do best, rather than just churn out another attraction. That's the bit for me. The risk of it becoming an amusement park. We need to. I want to see that change.
Yeah. How about you, Carlos?
I will go really simple, and I will point out to my favorite place in Walt Disney World, which is World Showcase. I want to see something new there. Could be a little thing, but something new there. Just a little bit of love in that area. It's been like 38 years without anything new there.
Yep.
So, I will not say anything, but something like a new country, a new experience there. That's the only thing that I would like to see.
How about you, Colin?
I mean, for me, it goes back to probably why I go to Walt Disney World anymore, and usually it's not for parks. I mean, that's an open statement for me. I use this example a lot. For me, the Disney experience, I mean, the big difference between Walt Disney World and Disneyland, the biggest difference is the resorts. And for me, that experience, I mean, I'm most people, I don't like to stay off property if I can avoid it. Obviously, costs come into play there, but I'd like to see Disney investing in something that's unique from a resort standpoint. Obviously, we've got these towers that they're building. It's something beyond that, something that's uniquely Disney conceptually. You have the Wilderness Lodges of the world and places like that, something that's grand, something that's unique to Disney. I mean, I don't want to go to another bland hotel. At the end of the day, I mean, they'll disagree with me, but my experience starts when I check in. My experience starts when I put in a room key in the hotel door and I step through the door, and I'm like I'm somewhere else. I'm not standing in a theme park. I'm riding the boat with my family. I'm playing a game by the dock. All these different things that are far simpler than having to buy a ticket. I mean, and to me, that's a big part of Disney. It has been for years, from the time that we stayed at Contemporary to the times we've stayed at Wilderness Lodge to the times we grew up going to Caribbean Beach. Those are the memories I have at Disney. So for me, it would be investment in something unique from a resort standpoint that you don't have to have a reservation to enjoy, that you can go and experience. Maybe it's a shopping complex built into a resort, or something along those lines that's going to allow guests to interact with other guests, but without having to have a ticket. And it doesn't look like Disney Springs. I mean, something that's a little more casual, something that's you can go and experience, kind of what Fort Wilderness was at one point, but you see what's happened there. But a gathering place for guests that either you're staying there or you experience it, that's something different than what you're getting anywhere else. And I think Disney used to do that really, really well. And I think they've gotten away from that a little bit with some of these capacity eating resorts that are just big towers that they've crammed in small spaces. So I'd like to see something with that, and maybe we'll get that with the expansions of Fort Wilderness and this new project and some of that. Yeah. But I think they need to be in touch with what their guests want when they go to a park or when they go to the resort, when they check in. Like Jason's point, a lot of it goes back to infrastructure. So that's what I'd have to say in the grand scheme of things.
I think I would hope, I would hope that we get a few updates on previous cancelled projects. I one day would love to know when they're going to do a Spaceship Earth refurb. What happens to the Mary Poppins attraction? Like you say,
Wondrous
Carlos,
China.
we need stuff that was actually going to happen that we haven't. Yes, it was during the pandemic, things got cancelled, but one day I'd like to see some of these stuff come back in a different way.
Or just call it a time of death. Like,
but Ben is right. Things like Spaceship Earth is not that it's only aesthetic. They need to maintain
I don't know how
that.
You can say that Epcot's done when they say we're finished with Epcot and not. But what about
Figment?
That horrible
what about
and Spaceship Earth that
that
your eyes
you fixed
haven't
about
adjusted
half
to
of it,
you can't see it.
I shouldn't even say fixed. I should say completed about half of what
so
was
maybe
proposed.
Epcot gets love in 2 years.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll get an update and see what they can
One
complete.
thing is important to mention. In their D23 booth, the Imagineering booth there, all the songs that were playing inside the pavilion were Epcot songs. Everything from the
That's so strange.
From
that
the descent team, the descent from Spaceship Earth descent team, from the old
Bring back the front loop music, the old stuff.
the old stuff. We were playing that thing there.
You know,
Maybe that's just a hint for 2 years' time.
Yeah, I have to make this comment because it made me laugh when I was in Disneyland. I vividly remember I was standing outside of their version of World of Disney and the Illumination soundtrack's playing in the background. It's like, you all don't even know what this is, a lot of you, but at the same time, it's like Carlos said, it's a nostalgia thing. Yeah, it's just like,
I remember standing outside Disneyland Paris and music was playing. What was it? There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. And it just took me straight back to the Magic Kingdom.
It's like they know we like it. They just don't do it.
Yeah.
Mixed up.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode of the Great British Mickey Waffle. So I want to say a huge thank you to our amazing guests for joining us today. So before we go, could each of you let our listeners know where they can find you on social media and what you're up to?
You can reach me at Ponto Orlando. But the best way to watch us is After Hours Let's Talk Disney. Just search After Hours Let's Talk Disney in YouTube, and you see more than 102 episodes.
More than you want.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a lot of us.
Yeah, and for me, it's Here with the Magic, also on YouTube, and same on Instagram as well. And since you're listening to a podcast right now, you might want to check out Soundscapes, also by Here with the Magic. You just search it up when this is over. Not yet.
It's my favorite podcast.
Well, thanks, Carlos.
My favorite podcast.
But thank you.
No, you please do that. I listen a lot.
Okay, I'll pay you later.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's very simple. It's a guide for WW, basically anywhere, social media, etc. It's all a lot of it's photography anymore. I do some work with Celebrations Press as far as magazines and books, but I'm also on their podcast quite a bit now. So if you're familiar with WW Radio, you'll know little Timmy Foster. So his show is it's the Celebrations Press podcast, I believe. So I'm on that quite frequently anymore. So if you want to find out from more podcast-oriented content, check it out there. But that's about it for me.
Oh, brilliant, Matt. Thank you again for joining us, though. It's been good. And it's got me excited and maybe thinking I might book, if we can book another trip to Disneyland in a couple of years' time to go to D23, even if it is just to go shopping, because I know you'd like to do that.
Well, lounge fly bags.
They're cheaper than Dooney and Burke's.
Oh, a lot cheaper.
Take that,
I
Ben.
get 3.
Yeah. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a review and a rating on your podcast app. It really helps us reach more Disney fans like you. And make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. So if you to stay up to all date things Great British Mickey Waffle, you can follow us on social media at GB Mickey Waffle. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you real soon.
Now my wheels in motion and my